President Trump has claimed that the war in Iran is very complete. I'm laughing because there's no end to this man's abusive language. After an hour-long phone call with Putin in Russia. His comments came after a lengthy call with the Russian president, who presented Mr. Trump with several proposals to end the war quickly, according to the Kremlin.
Well, in a subsequent press conference, the US president was optimistic about the timeline of the remaining conflict.
We're ahead of our initial timeline by a lot. I would say that we probably would not have thought after a month we'd be here. In addition to the fact that we've taken out the leadership twice and maybe three times.
President Trump also responded to the spike in oil prices since the conflict began by claiming that America will waive sanctions on certain countries to reduce those prices. Joining us now, Republican strategist Amy Tarkanian with all of this. Amy, what do you think of what has been revealed here?
Well, it would be really nice if this were true, if this is going to be over here very quickly, because gas prices are soaring. I was paying anywhere from down to $3 a gallon, and now we're almost upwards to $5 a gallon out here in Las Vegas, Nevada. And this has happened very quickly. People are very unhappy with the sluggish economy that has been going on now for some time. This is not going to help the midterm elections. And I think that's why you're hearing the president speak and using the verbiage that he's using, because he's aware that the people here are not happy. And the fact that he would also have to go back to Congress and ask for permission for an extension is something that's going to be a little bit of an uphill battle. So there are two major scenarios on why he is speaking the way he is speaking, in hopes that this is going to be short-lived and is not going to continue for days, for weeks, for months, or years on end, or even for decades. And that's our biggest fear here. Americans do not want to pitch a tent and be the world's police.
And of course, he was elected, wasn't he, on a ticket of no more forever wars. So he did say this
Correct.
would just be a short operation, about 4 weeks. But he also talked about the idea of regime change, which so far hasn't happened. Do you think he'll have to give up on the idea of regime change if he does want this to be a short operation?
I'm not exactly sure if he's willing to give up much. He is somebody who is pretty direct and knows exactly what he would like to accomplish. Maybe he's not going to get it accomplished exactly the way he had hoped, but I'm sure he's going to come up with plan B, a plan C, to at least try to put in some new faces, as new as possible, and not have the son or any other current extended family members that are still the same old, right? So I think it's going to be something that is impossible, if you really want to be realistic about it, to just cut off the head of the snake and hope for everything to go like rainbows and butterflies overnight. I think this is going to be something that's going to be extended. I really don't want to have to say that, but realistically, if you really want to have things done correctly, it's going to take some time.
There's nothing more important than keeping your money and your identity safe online. And with so many VPN options available, choosing the right one can be pretty daunting. But this video's sponsor, ExpressVPN, is making the choice easier for GBNews viewers. ExpressVPN is offering up to 75% off, plus 4 extra months free. That's top-level security from just £2.49 a month, and you're covered by their 30-day money-back guarantee. So just click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code now. Remember, when you're online, you are often sharing personal data, so hackers can steal your information, your passwords, your photos, and your bank details in just seconds. But ExpressVPN encrypts your connection, making it virtually impossible for hackers to access your personal information. So why choose ExpressVPN? Well, it couldn't be easier to use. With just one click, you are protected. And ExpressVPN uses military-grade AES 256 encryption, which is the same standard trusted by the US government to guard their classified information. With their new tiered plans, you can protect up to 14 devices at once and manage passwords securely. Live chat support is available 24/7, and it typically connects you in under a minute with a real person. Click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code to get up to 75% off ExpressVPN, plus 4 months extra for free. Start protecting yourself today with ExpressVPN.
What should we read into the fact that he's had a 1-hour phone call with President Putin? Much longer, I should mention, than the one with Sir Keir Starmer, our Prime Minister, which only lasted about 20 minutes. There is talk that he's considering lifting Russian sanctions on Russian oil to try and stop this spike that we've seen in global oil prices. What do you think will happen next?
Sure, and he's going to have to alleviate some of the pain that we're feeling here at the pump, and that is one way to go about it. But we're also not fools and know that Russia and Iran have a strategic partnership, and they are still heavily focused on the Ukraine as well. So they also have a lot going on. But I think the fact that Russia and Iran, they do have a partnership. I think that President Trump is hopefully playing a game of chess and just trying to alleviate some of the pressure that's going on, and make sure that Iran is trying to maybe just work as singularly as possible without getting any more help from any outside sources such as Russia.
Okay.
But, I mean, I just don't get this, Amy. I don't get this. I mean, what he's basically saying is, you're finding life difficult, Russia? All right, well, we'll ease sanctions on you. You'll raise more money. That'll fund your war machine in Ukraine. That's okay then. No one's going to object to that. Of course we're going to object to that.
Sure. And unfortunately, we live in a time of 30-second blurbs. We live in a Twitter sphere. And many people have actually forgotten, unfortunately, that this Ukrainian war has been going on for over 5 years now. And there is still death. There is still desperation. And it's unfortunate that we have somewhat moved on from that unfortunate story. And so I think that's maybe what the president is kind of hoping on, the fact that we do have midterms coming up. And so he's just wanting to make sure that he can, have this in his repertoire of look at what I've accomplished this far. This is another war, what he claims he has brought, 7 or 8 areas of peace in the world. The number keeps growing overnight, depending on the day of time that you speak with him. But I think he likes to add a feather in his cap.
Politics. Amy, thank you very much indeed. We'll leave it there. Appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, joining us now is Middle East commentator Yotam Confino. Very good morning to you, Yotam. Is this mixed messaging from the president here? Because he's saying after that phone call with Putin that the war is nearly complete. But then on Truth Social, he's talking about death, fire and fury raining upon Iran.
It's part of his strategy and constant mixed messages. It is frankly impossible to really understand what it is that Donald Trump means. And I think that's very deliberate. He says one thing one day and the next day he says something completely different. I do think that... That's
because he doesn't understand what he's saying.
Could be. I think it's actually quite a deliberate strategy because it's sowing a lot of confusion. A lot of people are reacting to it, and he doesn't obviously want to reveal his cards. It would be odd to stand at a press conference and tell Iran that in exactly 9 days the war will be over. That is unheard of. So I think he's deliberately sowing confusion, but I do think that he wants to end this war fairly soon. I think that there is some truth to that. I don't think he wants to go on for months and months. Donald Trump is not a person who would like to get dragged into long wars, especially in the Middle East. So I think that we're going to see this war continue for at least a week, if not more, because even though he says that the United States and Israel have ramped up impressive military achievements, which is true, we're far from having created the conditions on the ground for regime change, which is ultimately what both Israel and the United States would like.
Do you think he's given up on the idea of regime change? It's what he was talking about at the start of this operation, but it appears as though with the Ayatollah's son now being selected as the new supreme leader, that they've still very much got a grip on the country.
I think he understands that regime change is incredibly difficult, and to just, think that you can be able to do that from bombing from the air is not realistic. He needs to support certain opposition groups inside Iran, and they need to also decimate the regime's infrastructure much more for there to be an uprising so powerful that it will topple the regime. In other words, you need to continue this military operation for weeks, where you not only take out the ballistic missile programs and, of course, the nuclear program, but you need to also decimate the IRGC, some of their forces that are going on the streets and slaughtering people. According to Israeli estimates, some 1,900 Iranian forces have been killed so far, which is quite a lot, but it's nothing compared to how many armed forces they actually have. So if they want to create the conditions for regime change, they simply need to continue.
Jotam, all of that I get. What I don't get is why a phone call to Putin? Why bring Putin back in the fold? Why sit and talk to this guy for an hour and say, what can we do for you, Vladimir?
I think he's extremely worried how Russia might try to influence the outcome of the war. Russia is an ally of Iran, whether they want to admit it publicly or not. They have huge business deals with Iran. They've given them a lot of military equipment. I think he wants to make sure that Putin is not trying to pull any strings behind the curtains. And I also think that he's obviously talking to him about Ukraine, but he does listen to Putin. I think he does have an odd, special relationship with him. So, of course, he's listening to I would say, the second most powerful man in the world, because if he's got some information he wants to give him about the situation in Iran, I'm sure he's all ears.
Okay, thank you for being all ears with us, Jotam. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for your contributions. Appreciate it.